to Challengestone. We have three of our top four now. Unfortunately, that last match, kind of a blowout. Savit's having to use a bunch of the bad cards that Crip thought would be funny to watch, and well, it
Wasn't
was. It
it?
was. It was. It was. It was good choices
Do
on the
you
cards.
think? Because I do design the challenges. I mean that there's a lot of people that handle production and make sure everything's on point with Rania, with the Tempo Storm dudes, with Charles. There's a lot of crazy stuff, but I handle the challenges, so I was responsible for those terrible cards. What did you think? Do you think there's like another way to go about it? Should I have chosen like good cards?
No, no. I kind of like it because it just like tells you to pay attention. It's like a slap on the wrist.
Okay.
I don't think it'll ever happen to anyone ever again after seeing how poorly it went for Savitz. Like everyone will make sure that plays in it from now on
Okay.
not to have it happen. But like
Okay.
I liked it. Like Enhanced Mechano, it's like a really fun card. So if you do mess up
It's
one or
not
two
unplayable.
cards, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But then like Novice Engineer, it's so funny watching how impotent she has become because she was so good and you're like she gets played and then a haunted creeper kills her and you're like, oh, that was just so bad. Like what am I
Yeah.
doing with this card?
But at the same time, it's not too bad. Like it is a redraw in a control matchup.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
how I look at it, right?
it's better than some of the other cards on the list. It's better than Grimscale Oracle, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, next matchup we got Kibler versus Xixo. Two fairly outspoken players. Both try a lot of new things. We're gonna head into the deck building here in just a second. But for those just checking in on Challengestone stream just now, I want to tell you guys what's going on. So, Challengestone is a tournament where we mess up the rules every single tournament, and for this one, we have the odds and evens challenge. For creatures, every creature needs an odd attack value on the card itself. So Fireguard Destroyer qualifies, even though he might be played as an even attack. And spells must have an even number mana cost. And again, this is on the card itself. And 0 is officially an even number. Artus has verified this
Via Google.
during the broadcast. So it is like super verified that you can play things like Innervate. And a lot of people have. Ramp Druid is a thing, but it hasn't really worked too well so far. The more aggressive decks have been slightly more dominant, but the sample
Yeah.
size has been pretty small so far. So let's see how these players fare with the challenge. Every player was given the challenge at the exact same time. Every player built the deck at the exact same time. They had 20 minutes to build 3 decks of distinct classes. And for this tournament, none of them were banned. For future tournaments, some classes might be banned because it is pretty difficult to make a challenge work. But I think this is a good one. I think
This
yeah,
is
I'm
a
gonna
nice
I'm gonna
start.
pat
This is
myself on the
like
back there. Yeah.
I gotta say, I think this is a good start to Challenge Stone. It's like the challenge isn't too crazy, and like you really get to see decks that aren't that far off, but they have some additional fun cards like Illidan put
Yeah.
in and stuff. So I like it. It's a nice intro to Challenge Stone, I think.
Yeah. And I mentioned this earlier, like with all these like niche rules, obviously Hearthstone's not based around them. So if you gave these players unlimited time to come up with decks within like any challenge, there's probably like a fairly objective like one, two, three, maybe top four decks, right? But we're not really expecting players to come up with these because that's why the 20-minute time restraint is there. It's so we get to
Mhm.
see how quickly these players can realize just, how strong some of the concepts are because that's really what they're working off of. And we saw some of that deck building play out that way, and maybe it played out that way, maybe a bit differently here.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
have a look.
All
Oh
right.
man, I like that Kibler cam. Look at those
Yeah.
eyes. Oh man.
You can tell he's really concentrating.
Yep. Holy cow. This is sped up times two because
Yeah.
2 minutes is a little bit boring to watch. So we helped you guys out here.
Yeah. Kibler is actually definitely one of the players that I like to watch when he streams. Very emotive guy with his face, and you can see that really pushed forward
Yeah.
here.
Kibler is moving at like twice the rate of adding cards to a class than Sixo is.
Yeah.
Like Druid, yeah. Innervate, Wild Growth, Ancients. That's exactly what I did, by the way.
Does this make it every player that's tried to make a ramp druid? I believe so, right?
Has it?
I believe so. I mean, we'll see. I Sixo
Yeah,
hasn't made his decks
perhaps.
yet, obviously, so
My memory is not so good right now.
it's okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hmm.
We'll see. But I feel that Druid's strong. It just hasn't really won a single game. Yeah, 0.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the aggressive decks have been able to kill it off pretty quickly, I guess. So
Or
we'll see,
some
though.
ridiculous
I think
mage
it.
RNG in the opening game.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was a little bit silly, I guess.
Yeah, it was.
Druid was actually in a very good spot until then, so whatever.
Mhm. Well, we have Kibler making a fairly traditional deck as far as the tournament has paced out with just big dudes and ramp on Druid and Xixo. Also fairly in line with the tournament, but starting on a different note rather than starting with the Druid as most players have so far. He's starting with the Zulok.
Hmm.
And again, when I practiced this challenge, these were the first 2 decks that I made. Obviously not exactly like this, but in similar fashion. I was actually talking about Violet Teacher in some of the interviews which we caught on. Violet Teacher I think is a really good card in the ramp druid. I think we saw it in Kibler's deck, but it kind of zoomed by a little bit quick, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, yeah. He's actually going really, really quick. Whereas Sixo really focusing on making a very good aggro zoo deck. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
more aggressive than even Trump's zoo deck. So not surprised though. Like I was kind of talking about
Mukla.
before, this is what I would expect out of Sixo to make. Definitely a
Mukla
master of zoo.
boys. Yeah.
Mm.
Kibler working with Priest. Kibler is known for playing a lot of Priest in the past, so this is familiar territory for him. Slow stuff, mind control, Shadow Madness is really, really good stuff. The one thing that I think Priest kind of suffers is I think you have some draw inconsistency in this format because while you have the North Shard early on, you don't have the option to protect it with a Shadow Word Pain. Excuse me,
Hmm.
or Velen's Chosen.
Well, yeah. I mean, that does definitely mess it up a little bit. And you don't have any other real card draw in Priest. Like you don't even have the kind of hybrid card draw that is Thought Steal. So
Oh
can make it a
wow.
bit rough.
Killer's also playing Prophet Velen.
Hmm. Yeah,
Man,
he's got a
him and
Baron
Life
Geddon in
Coach.
there. I like the spider tanks. He's trying to kind of beef up lower on the
It's that
enemy.
even health value. Like that just
Yeah.
kills literally every 2 drop that people can play right now
Hmm. Yeah, I guess that's true actually. Yeah.
for free.
Well, very smart deck building going on here by Kibler.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he has a long career, storied career in Magic.
Yeah, yeah. Xixo a bit slow here. Looks like he's making some kind of tempo mage.
Yeah, that's actually been one of our more widely made decks today as well. Really.
Again, though, pretty mild success. Really,
Yeah.
the dominant deck has been the Zulok so far.
Mm.
But at the same time, I think Priest has a lot of hidden potential, and I think Shaman is a decent choice. It's just a bit unfortunate that Chalky didn't get to reveal how his would play out.
Yeah. I think Shaman's totally fine here. But I don't think that these. Well, I could see Sixo making a Shaman deck. He's had a lot of success lately with Mech Shaman, so he could try something somewhat aggressive with that. I don't know if it would look like Chalky's deck, his weird Shaman that we saw before.
Mm-hmm. Paladin's being played. I think Paladin's
Yeah,
also reasonably strong. You get the equality consecrate. You don't get Tyrion, which is kind of bad. But those big
especially with no
board clears,
silences. Oh my god.
yeah, those big board clears are just really huge. Like if you face against another control deck, the equality consecrate is just brutal.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
liking the
down
mage
the
deck.
mage.
That's looking pretty good.
Yeah. Sixo is far more conservative. Like he adds a card, looks what does he need, add another card. Or
Mm.
Kibler's like, just machine gunning them in there.
Yeah, definitely. Seems like Sixo is much more calm during this. Like Kibler keeps on making faces and holding his head and stuff while he pushes through.
Kind of wish every player did that though.
Yeah.
That's like the theatrics of deck building.
Yeah. It's what I look like. I get up and pace around my office while
What,
I'm making
yeah.
my decks.
What he's actually doing is he's warming up the left hemisphere of his brain, which controls the right half of your body. So it's able to allow it allows him to more quickly move the mouse around and select cards in Hearthstone.
Let me Google that to see if that's true. Just like zero is an even number. I think you're full of it.
No, I'm pretty sure the brain controls the opposite side of the body, like the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body. It may surprise people, but I actually know things about the world outside of Hearthstone and Diablo.
It says right here on Google that Kibler is known for holding the left side of his head to warm up that part of the brain to control the right side of his body better. So you are right once
Nailed
again,
it.
Grip. You are a brilliant man.
Got it. All right. So Kilder's deck actually looks really balanced.
Yeah, looks quite
It's based
nice.
like you're basically looking at Control Warrior, except you can't play Control Warrior because it has no removal. So you play Priest because Priest has really good removal.
Mm.
The,
What
the, the
is
sense is like off the charts, right?
uh, what is Xixo's third deck? Oh, it's going to be Druid, of course. So that makes everyone have made a ramp Druid. I guess it's just such an obvious deck to make, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You can play a fairly aggressive one. It's just I don't know. Not having Savage Roar really makes it so you're at best running like mid-range.
Yeah.
But you do have the Force of Nature. Your big minions are going to stick, so you can push for like damage and heavy hitters.
Mm. Oh, this is kind of an interesting one. He's throwing in jugglers and everything in there too.
Well, I think it's mostly about curve. Like it's like okay, you look at the deck. Oh, yeah, I want more two drops. What two drop do I use? Oh, is that a
Yeah.
Blood Knight? Oh, double Blood Knight.
Wow, cool.
That is
Might be
cool.
he might be expecting quite a few Argents.
Yeah, that's actually very impressive. I think one Blood Knight alone is like a good call, but two is like he knows people will be playing Argent Squires, and
Yeah.
that's a very impressive thing to pick up on so early.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's these decisions that really make you successful.
Yeah, in a format like this for sure. And again,
Because
like basically everyone invited is known as a very strong deck builder. So it's cool to see the ways that they go with it.
yeah, it's like I think most people operate on like level one. It's like what's good, and then you have like level two. It's like what beats what's good,
Hmm.
right? Yeah. Well, all right. In the
Well,
last couple minutes here.
he would have been caught off, real off guard with those Blood Knights against Savitz, man. Well, I guess actually an enhancement mechanic could have
Yeah,
powered those up.
spammed it.
Mm.
And he had cog hammers. No, Saviz had plenty of divine shields.
Yeah, I guess so, actually.
Like if Saviz actually needed more things to go wrong in his match.
Yeah.
Imagine that would happen. Like imagine Saviz actually winning and then here comes like a 12-12 Blood Knight out of nowhere.
Oh, he
Yeah.
has a Tink Master in there. Cool. I like that because
Yeah,
that's
it's
like,
kind of like silence.
yeah, a little bit in certain situations.
I don't know about Zoo though. Like I feel in Zoo there's just a lot of crap on the board. I think Tickmaster's strength is like your opponent played something you can't really deal with it. There's nothing else on the board, or there's like a small thing that you can just, get off the board, then Tickmaster.
Well, the Zoo deck is like a little bit different because it doesn't have like the full range of Zoo cards you want. So I like it in the fact that it might get like one of your imps or spider tokens. We've seen a lot of games with just a bunch of 1/1s on board. So
Yeah.
it could be cool.
Oh, Kibler with the acknowledgement. That is not too bad. All
Yeah.
right. I think this actually passes the Trump Strife Crow pair in terms of overall deck quality.
I think so, yeah. Like I think
Yeah.
out of everyone I think so far I have liked Trump's decks the most.
Hmm.
But I would say that you're definitely right. Like it seems like both these guys have very, very good decks, and I could see this being quite a close series compared to some of the more blowout series that we've seen.
Yeah. And while I think this will also be a pretty close one, I'm expecting the next round, the semifinals, which will start with tomorrow, to hopefully, probably be a little bit closer than a 3-0 sweep. Whoops, I have too many Enhancer Mechanos in my deck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or 3-0. Whoops, you're playing actually a very good zoo deck, and I'm lost. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Well, before we start the matches, we're going to get into some of the interviews here. I think again, these interviews were done right after the deck building process, so they're pre-recorded. The shoe will not be on the head to prove that it's not pre-recorded because it is pre-recorded. Um, I think we're going to get into the Kibler interview first, see what he has to say about his forehead rubbing deck building. Kibler, man, you got some good decks here. What'd you think of the challenge? How did you come to the classes, and what do you think is going to be good here?
So the two things that I was thinking about when I was going through building my decks was trying to identify the classes where you get to still play with some of their best stuff. Like
Yeah,
for instance, when you're playing even cost spells, it's like you still get to play Innervate and Wild Growth, which is one of the things that immediately drew me to
yeah,
Druid. And the other thing was what isn't there. So what are the cards that people can't play with? And one of the big cards people can't play with is Big Game Hunter. Because
yeah,
Big Game Hunter is an even power minion. I was like, okay, well, I can play a bunch of 7 power minions in my decks. I can play, Volcanic Lumberers in my Druid deck, and whatever, like I just Prophet Veil in my priest deck and things like that. That in normal circumstances I just really wouldn't consider.
and silence doesn't work either, so you
But
kind
that
of get
was
the safety on
Yeah,
the
it's one of the
ancients.
things. My Druid deck is full of Ancient of Wars. It's like there's no Spellbreakers, there's no Owls. So like I'm even playing Bolvar in my Paladin deck because there's no Big Game Hunter or Silence to take him out.
Yep,
So
yep,
and then there's little things like the fact that I sort of assumed that one of the really popular minions would be Sludge Belcher because
hmm
Sludge Belcher is a pretty obvious high power minion that with odd attack. And then I was like, okay, well in my priest deck I'm just playing multiple copies of Shadow Madness
We
because
can bob that guy, right?
exactly I have Shrinkmeister and Recombobulator and sort of the stuff to go with supporting Shadow Madness
Yeah,
because it's like, okay, well even just naturally I feel like Sludge Belcher is likely to be these things are going to be good against Sludge Belcher, so I'm going to try and line them up there.
yeah. I think you certainly have some very refined decks. But I'm kind of curious. It's like not only what you build, it's what you expect other people to build, right? And I see
Mhm.
that you have Harrison Jones in every single deck, so you're expecting people to play weapon decks, I guess.
Well, the thing is, like, because weapons were unrestricted by the sort of rules, it's like, okay, well, you can play, like, and like a card like Death Spite is, like really powerful in a format where people are playing, lots of stuff like Sludge Belchers or, there's gonna be lots of 3/3s, because you can only really play 3/3s for 3. That's why, my priest deck just has both 3/4s it can play at 3 mana.
Yeah,
So it's like, okay, I think that it's reasonable that people will play, warrior decks that have, Axe and Death Spite, and it's possible that Harrison is just not the right call, but I thought that it's a pretty low cost hedge in terms of just being a reasonable minion in the format where because people are they have to play stuff like 5/5s, like they can't be
yeah,
playing the high health minions. They have to be playing generally stuff that is largely on curve or for the stat progression
yeah.
because it has
It's
to be
it's
odd.
it's either like bad health or extreme health,
Right. I
right?
mean, one of the downsides of Harrison Jones is it matches up poorly against cards like Piloted Shredder or cards like Druid of the Claw. It's like people can't play those.
hmm
So, a lot of the downsides of Harrison Jones, I think, are mitigated just by the rules of the format.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I am curious because we mentioned these small attack values. There's a lot of strategy surrounding them that you only have one Shadow Word Pain, even though you're running two Shrinkmeisters.
Yeah, I thought about having another one, and this was sort of just going back and forth with some of my last card choices. Like I thought, I was like, well, maybe I should play two Shattered Pain. Maybe I want one in the Resurrect. It's possible I went a little bit too heavy on just the big minions in the deck. I have three 7 drops in my deck with which is kind of heavy. But I felt like in particular in the cases where you're going to end up with lots of decks are a little bit lower power level than you would get sort of typically in
Mhm.
normal constructed in Hearthstone. I think that having, those individually powerful cards, especially when people are unlikely to have great tools to deal with them, is often going to be able to decide a lot of games. People aren't going to really have the same level of, strong curves they'll have in natural games, because they can't play the most efficient things at every drop. So I think that games are often going to go longer,
Yeah.
and that can often mean that having more of just the individually powerful cards can be what defines who wins the games.
hmm So you kind of feel this is more of a mid-game to control type of battle. Did
I
you consider making an aggressive deck?
I mean, I thought about it, but didn't really, like I basically spent my time building these three decks. Like I think that if I had gone on, in sort of down the rabbit hole of some other classes or some other deck styles, I may have sort of just run out of time. I was
hmm
largely playing, like decks and classes that I'm pretty familiar with, and know the sort of stuff that I think is good, and can sort of parse what the implications of the restrictions are. Where if I'm like, I think I have like less than 10 wins on Warlock or something like that. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, you can play Flame Imp and you can play Doomguard, so that's pretty attractive. But
Yeah.
like you lose, power overwhelming, you lose abusive sergeant or dark iron dwarf, and a lot of those what feel like they're
The
pretty
eggs. Yeah.
right, exactly, a lot of the cards that feel pretty important for those sorts of strategies. And I felt more comfortable tinkering with decks for classes that I have just played a lot. Like all
Yeah.
three of these classes are classes I have gold in ranked with. So like,
And
okay,
I
I've
think that
done with a lot of these before.
that strategy really shows. I think you more than anything, you just have very refined, balanced decks, and I think this comes from like knowing not only what's good, but knowing like literally at the top of your head the cards that fit the parameters, which I think was your strength in this challenge, and I think that really shows. So I think you did a great job. I think your chances are quite good. How do you feel about that? Are you taking this tournament down?
I mean, I'm gonna do my best. I definitely have already had a lot of fun. So even just like I definitely really enjoy the challenge of thinking about games in different ways and sort
hmm
of trying to adapt to those sort of parameters. And I think that I'll see what different zoo decks that Xixo has when you play them in the first round at least, and hopefully my decks full of sludge belchers and shield masters and stuff are good enough there.
Well, we'll see.
We
Good
will.
job.
Okay, cool. So Kibler using some classes he's a little bit more used to.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than what we've seen so far. So far, it's been what's good, what's good, what's good. I'm playing that, and
Yeah.
honestly, that's the approach that I went with. Kibler said that he has somewhat limited experience with some classes, and certainly vast in other areas. So strategy seems very appropriate for his playstyle. He's played a lot of the priest certainly, and I've seen him play some of the druid, so it makes sense. He had a very easy time just constructing the decks. Like at the
Mm.
start, you saw him just machine gun in like all these cards, and then the fine tuning aspect, he had a lot of time for that. So I feel like um, while while his decks may not work out, they certainly look good,
Mm.
but I'm sure that the decks are like exactly what he wanted to get out of them.
Yeah, and
So I'm
it
pretty
kind of
happy
makes
about that.
sense that he took that approach as well because he's actually not a full-time Hearthstone pro. A lot of these guys in this tournament actually are, but he still plays professional Magic and he still works for a company. So it makes sense that he's kind of like narrowing it down. He knows what he knows, he knows what he doesn't know, and he's going with his best chance in his view.
Well, I think it's a good chance. Let's
Yeah.
see what Sixo had to say about his deck building. So we just finished the deck process. We have Sixo here. What did you think? What did you think of the challenge?
It's kind of weird. Like, it ruins your curve because you can't run like 3 mana spells, so you curve out really high on 2 and 4. So yeah, gotta got to hit those 2 drops.
Yeah, the two drops. Now I see that you used quite a few combo cards. Did you have some decks prepared so you could fit the cards in as you played through? I know you were talking about that just before the deck building process.
No, I just like thought about like which played decks could be modified. Like I was thinking about Companion Warrior, but without Execute, without Whirlwind, and no Warsong Commander. That didn't really work out. And I thought about
Yeah,
Zoo.
Warsong Commander's the big one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Zoo seemed to be fine. Yeah, I thought about Freeze Mage, but you don't have Ice Lances, so it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
And just went with 3 value decks.
So you made like a Zooey Warlock, you made like a Zooey Mage, and you made like a Ramp-ish Druid. Yeah? Are you
Yeah,
like which decks are you happiest with right now?
I think my Zoo is probably not losing until the finals. My Mage should do fine, but could really get a bad draw and just lose the first game. And my Druid is just gonna rely on like a perfect draw. Like I expect my Druid to maybe have like a 20% win rate.
Now, did you make any like small strategies regarding minions? Because with all minions having like odd attack values, the even health values are particularly strong, and their ability because you can't run a silence because all the silences are even attack.
I
Was there
thought
any
about
like
that, so
Yeah.
I actually didn't have a Void Terror on my Zoo list, but then when I did my other decks, I realized you can't run Silence, so I figured Void Terror should be fine and added one into Zoo.
and you can't run big game either?
Yeah, okay, but you can't run PO, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really get to more than 6. But what was the question?
That's okay. I noticed you have some cards fairly consistent through the decks. Some are predictable. Like, you have Knife Juggler in a lot of decks. A lot of people saw that
the
one coming.
question. The question was if I counted cards that you can't run, but you're so limited on cards because so many cards you just can't play that you basically have to play every other card that's viable. You can't really counter the meta.
Well, a card like Water Elemental seems extremely strong. Like, the difference between 5 and 6 health is huge, and on a 4-drop, it's like ridiculous. And with Mage being able to ping, you can kind of upgrade its damage to 4 in some cases.
Yeah, but I think it's just a good card because it's a good card. I don't think it's a good card because people can't
Yeah.
run.
Okay. I do see that you have like Mukla in the Mage and Tinkmaster Overspark in more than one deck. Now, what's the thought process behind this one?
I mean, I was running short on other 3-drops and cards I could play. And I mean, the answer to the responses are limited. People can't like Banana BGH Mukla.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just seemed like if people are limited on responses, they might just give you enough tempo to single-handedly win the game.
Now, what about Hungry Dragon? That's been a slightly controversial card right now with BlackRock, but you seem to
I think the
have
card is
liked
super
enough to put it in
bad.
your deck.
Yeah, like in normal formats, I would never play that card. I think it's awful, but with that format, you're really limited on 4-drops because you can't play Argus, you can't play Dark Ivantrov, you can't play Yeti, you can't play Shredders. So it's kind of like a replacement 4-drop.
Okay. Now, you are running like Zooey type of decks. Do you expect people to run different things? Do you expect people to run like taunt-heavy decks in some cases?
I mean, I could see it like a Taunt Druid, like a better version of my Druid, basically. But other than Druid, I don't really think there's much because like Druid has Innervate and Wild Growth, which I could still play, but like Warrior can't play Executes, can't play Shield Stems, can't play Shield Blocks, so you can't play Control Warrior. Like Priest is super awful. You don't have Balance Chosen. You have like a lot of cards you can't play that you kind of need. So I think just because control decks have cards that they have to run, Echo decks are just more flexible, and it's mostly going to be those.
Okay. All right. Well, what do you think your chances are? You think you're winning this thing?
I mean, I don't know. Like Chucky is pretty good at those formats. I'm not sure if I meet him in semifinals or in finals, but I think I have a 50-50 against Chucky and not going to lose against anyone else.
Okay. Well, good luck. Thanks for your
Thanks.
comments.
All right,
So
well,
Xixo going more aggressive decks, of course. He's feeling very confident. Again, how he mentioned how he expects himself and Chalky to be the finalists, of course.
well, I mean, these two are very good young players that spend a lot of time.
It's not even possible because
Are they on the same side of the bracket?
Yeah,
they
they're on
are.
the same side of the bracket. Yeah.
Well,
if
they
Xixo
could be
wins, he'd have to
semifinals.
face Chucky. No?
Hmm.
Oh well. All right. Well, he's gonna have to beat Kibler first.
Yeah. I gotta say, I'm still so far in this tournament. Like, I feel like I'm kind of agreeing with you where Priest. It seems like Priest would be such a great choice if you make the right Priest deck. So maybe that's going to help Kibler a lot. Having Priest against 6-0 doesn't. But so far, I've been by far most impressed by the construction of the Zoo decks, and I think that this Zoo deck, it looks very, very strong. You're going to have to draw well to beat it with
Yeah.
anything.
Well, let's see if he does. Let's get the games on the way.
All right,
Mage
Pally versus